This pain isn't betrayal, it's redirection. There's a moment when silence screams louder than words, when someone walks away and you're left holding the weight of what they never said, and in that void, your mind spins 1,000 stories. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Why wasn't I worth fighting for? But what if I told you this pain isn't proof of your failure? It's the fire forging your future. While you're stuck mourning what was, life is trying to push you toward what could be. Most people stay trapped in the betrayal and miss the redirection. But if you're listening right now, you're not like most people. You're here for truth, for healing, for power. When it all fell apart, it doesn't always start with a scream. Sometimes, it's silence that breaks you. One minute, you're standing in a world that made sense, and the next, you're staring at the pieces of a life you thought would never shatter. The text that never came, the door that closed without warning. The person who once promised they'd always be there, gone, without explanation. You keep replaying the last conversation, hunting for clues. You look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself, not because of what's changed on the outside, but because something inside you has collapsed. And it's not just sadness, it's disorientation, a soul-level confusion. Because how do you grieve someone who's still alive, just no longer choosing you? Your brain becomes a war zone. Logic fighting emotion, memory battling reality. You remember the way they used to smile at you, laugh with you, lean on you. You remember the version of you that felt seen, needed, wanted. Now you're invisible in a story you helped build. The worst part? You still love them, and that love has nowhere to go. It echoes inside you like an unanswered prayer, and every time you try to suppress it, it resurfaces, raw, aching, unresolved. This is where most people get stuck. They call it heartbreak, but it's something deeper. It's identity death. Because when someone walks away, they don't just leave your life, they leave your sense of worth shaken. They leave your mind chasing closure that may never come. And slowly, your inner dialogue turns cruel. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Was everything we shared just a lie? You weren't just betrayed, you were abandoned by your reality. And in that moment, nothing makes sense. Your body moves, but your spirit is paralyzed. You scroll through your day pretending to be okay, smiling for others while bleeding inside. You isolate yourself, not because you want to be alone, but because you can't bear to hear the words, "You'll be fine," because you're not fine. You're fractured, and pretending only deepens the wound. But here's what no one tells you, and what I need you to hear. This moment is not the end. It's the unraveling before the rebirth. Because sometimes things have to fall apart, so you can finally stop holding on to what was never meant to stay. You're not broken, you're breaking open. And while it feels like betrayal, what if it's actually the universe's most brutal form of redirection? The question that haunts you. You lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, asking the same question over and over again. Why? Why did they walk away? Why didn't they fight for me? Why did they promise forever, then vanish like it meant nothing? It's a loop that never ends, like a song you never wanted stuck in your head, playing louder in the silence. You scroll through old messages, stare at photos that once meant joy, and now feel like betrayal. You go over every word every moment, trying to decode something that never made sense. You convince yourself that if you can just understand why, the pain might stop. That maybe, just maybe, the right answer will make it hurt less. But it doesn't. Because you're not just searching for answers, you're searching for worth. You're not really asking, why did they leave? You're asking, was I not enough to stay? That's the real question, and it cuts deeper than anything they ever said, because now it's you wounding yourself. This is the identity collapse. When someone we loved, someone we trusted, suddenly stops choosing us, it doesn't feel like they left. It feels like who we are was rejected, and that pain becomes addictive. You replay it not because you enjoy suffering, but because part of you is hoping the next time you go over it, it'll make sense, that you'll find the missing piece. But the human brain isn't built for unanswered wounds, so it fills the silence with stories. They found someone better. I must be too much, or not enough. If I had just done more, they'd still be here. You personalize pain that was never yours to carry. You begin to believe the betrayal defines you. But here's what you must understand, and this truth is non-negotiable. Their actions are a reflection of them, not your value. Read that again. What they did says something about their courage, their clarity, their readiness to love deeply. It does not rewrite your worth. And maybe, just maybe, this pain wasn't punishment. This wasn't the universe betraying you. It was protecting you. Because what if the real heartbreak wouldn't have been them leaving, but them staying, and you never realizing how much more you deserved? So here's the shift. Instead of asking, why did they do this to me? Start asking, what is this pain redirecting me toward? That's where the breakthrough begins. The invisible war within you. Wake up, smile at the world, and quietly bleed inside. You get dressed, go to work, post a photo, nod when someone asks, you doing okay, and you lie. Not because you want to, but because it feels easier than trying to explain a war no one else can see. This is the battlefield most people never talk about. Not the one with blood and scars on the surface, but the one behind your eyes, where your thoughts don't rest, where your heart keeps screaming in a world that demands your silence. You've become a master of disguise. You laugh in the group chat. You show up to family dinners. You even offer advice to others while secretly drowning in your own unanswered grief. And the world keeps applauding your strength, never realizing that your silence isn't strength, it's exhaustion. There's a pressure, unspoken but always present, that you should be over it by now. That heartbreak has a deadline. That pain has an expiration date. So you stop bringing it up. You stop reaching out. You start apologizing for still feeling something that others have already forgotten. This is the trap. You begin to feel ashamed of your own heart. You start thinking, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am broken. Maybe I'm the problem. But hear this clearly. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are human, and emotional pain, the kind that tears through your soul, isn't something you just get over. It's something you move through, like walking through a storm barefoot. Like dragging yourself through fire with no map, no guide, no certainty that there's peace on the other side. But there is. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Most people you admire are fighting silent wars too. The strong ones, the successful ones, the ones who seem like they have it all together. They've just learned to keep marching, even when their armor is shattered. They've learned that pretending doesn't heal you, but awareness does. So today, give yourself permission to take off the mask. You don't have to perform for anyone. You don't have to rush your healing to make others comfortable. You're allowed to feel everything fully, even when the world tells you to numb it. Because the moment you stop running from your truth is the moment you take your power back. And that's when the war starts to shift, not by hiding the pain, but by owning it. You are not alone in this war. You're just learning how to win it from the inside out. The mirror of pain doesn't just hurt, it exposes. It holds up a mirror and forces you to look at the version of yourself you've been avoiding. Not the curated one, not the one others applaud, but the raw, unfiltered version. The one asking, am I even enough? When someone walks away, betrays you, rejects you, or breaks you, you don't just feel their absence. You start questioning your worth. You start rewriting your identity around their decision, as if their departure was a statement about your value, as if their silence confirmed your deepest fear. Maybe I'm not lovable after all. That's the illusion, that someone else's inability to stay means you weren't worth staying for, that their betrayal means you were too much, or not enough, that their failure to see you clearly must mean you were invisible. But here's the truth, and I want you to tattoo this on your soul. Their actions are not your reflection. Their choices are not your identity. Pain is loud, and when you're hurting, it's easy to believe that what they did is who you are. But pain isn't a measure of your value. It's a mirror, revealing how much of your identity was placed in their hands. And that's where the breakthrough begins. Because when you realize the reflection in the mirror was shaped by your wounds, not your truth, you can shatter it. You can reclaim the parts of you that you gave away, piece by piece, in hopes they'd love you more. You can stop asking broken people to define your wholeness. This pain is a mirror showing you where you've been living, small, shrinking yourself for approval. It's revealing the version of you that relied on external validation to feel seen. And while that's heartbreaking, it's also liberating. Because now you get to choose who you are, without their fingerprints smudging the glass. You get to stop being the person who begs for clarity from someone who gave you confusion. You get to stop searching for meaning in someone else's abandonment. You get to stop holding your identity hostage to someone else's decisions. Let the pain reflect what's been hidden. Let it show you the places you've abandoned yourself. And then, let it redirect you. Because this mirror, It's not here to shame you. It's here to awaken you. The person looking back at you is not broken. They're just learning how to remember who they were before the world told them otherwise. And that's where healing starts. The myth of closure. Let's talk about something that keeps too many people stuck in their pain. Closure. We convince ourselves that we can't move forward until we get it. We wait for an apology that never comes, an explanation that never arrives, a conversation that was never meant to happen. We say, I just need them to tell me why, but what we're really saying is, I need them to validate that I mattered. And that's the trap. We think closure is something they give us, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Closure is not a door someone else closes for you. It's the one you lock, from the inside, because when you put your healing in the hands of someone who broke you, you're still handing them the pen and asking them to finish your story, but they were never qualified to write it in the first place. You don't need their words to heal. You don't need their apology to let go. You don't need their permission to move forward. You've been taught that closure is this clean, pretty moment, a final talk, a mutual understanding, a peaceful goodbye. But real closure, it's messy. It happens at 2 a.m. when you're crying on the floor. It happens when you choose not to check their social media. It happens when you stop rehearsing what you wish you'd said. Real closure is internal. It's not something they give you. It's something you give yourself when you decide, I'm done letting this moment define me. Waiting for them to come back and fix it is like standing in a burning house and hoping the one who lit the match will come save you. They won't, and even if they did, it wouldn't be enough, because closure isn't about the end of a relationship. It's about the start of self-respect. It's about drawing the line in your own soul and saying, this pain may be part of my story, but it will not write my identity. And here's the most empowering truth. You don't need the last word. You just need the next step. So stop waiting for closure from the person who hurt you. Stop needing their understanding to validate your experience. You already survived what tried to break you. You already stood back up. That's closure, right there. And the moment you stop reaching out for what they'll never give, you reach inward for something far more powerful. Peace. The power hidden in the pain. What if the pain wasn't meant to destroy you, but to reveal you? Most people talk about trauma as a sentence, something that marks them, scars them, breaks them. But there's a deeper truth you've probably never been told. Some of the strongest, most powerful people you'll ever meet were forged in fire. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's very real. Not everyone who experiences pain falls apart. Some rise, some awaken, some use it as fuel to become someone they never thought possible. Think about it. Pressure doesn't just crush, it also creates diamonds. Fire doesn't just burn, it also purifies. And pain doesn't just wound, it reveals strength you didn't know you had. Because before the pain, you were comfortable, safe, predictable, but that comfort kept you small. The storm came, and yes, it broke something, but it also shattered the illusion that you were powerless. Pain rips away the lies. It shows you the parts of yourself you were hiding. It brings buried wounds to the surface, so they can finally be faced, felt, and freed. And once that happens, you start becoming someone else entirely. Someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who no longer seeks validation, but embodies worth. You stop chasing closure. You start building boundaries. You stop begging to be chosen. You choose yourself. This is the turning point, the sacred space where the victim dies, and the visionary begins to rise. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. So many people wait for life to go back to normal, but you weren't meant to go back. You were meant to go forward, and forward means owning the pain, not as a curse, but as your call to power. This is how warriors are born. This is how legends are made, not in the absence of suffering, but in the alchemy of it. What you went through wasn't betrayal, it was redirection. It didn't come to kill your spirit, it came to ignite it, because there's something inside you that only pain could access. A fire, a mission, a deeper version of you that was asleep until life cracked you wide open. And now you're not just healing, you're transforming. Your pain was never the end of your story, it was the beginning of your breakthrough, who you were meant to become. You've spent so much time defining yourself by what happened to you, by what you lost, by who walked away, by the version of you that was broken. But pause for a second. Ask yourself a terrifyingly powerful question. Who are you beyond that story? Because you are not your heartbreak, you are not the rejection, you are not the version of yourself that got left behind in the storm. That was a moment, not your identity. You've been wearing pain like a name tag. I'm the one who got hurt. I'm the one who's hard to love. I'm the one who always gets left. No, you're not that person anymore. You're in the in-between, the sacred space between who you were and who you were always meant to become. See, every painful experience carved out space inside you, not to leave you empty, but to make room for expansion. The expansion of your character, your capacity to love without losing yourself, your ability to walk away from what no longer serves you. This is the beginning of your redefinition. It's time to let go of the identity that pain tricked you into accepting, because the truth is, you were never weak, you were wounded, and wounds can heal, but they heal faster when you stop identifying with them. There's a version of you waiting to be born, one who doesn't live in fear of abandonment, one who doesn't shrink themselves to be liked, one who walks in rooms without needing to be validated, because they already know their worth. But that version requires you to do something terrifying, to stop clinging to the old story. It's easier to say, this is just who I am now. It's harder to say, no, I'm going to rebuild myself, brick by brick, even if no one claps for me while I do it. But this is where transformation lives, in the quiet, uncomfortable choice to shed the false identity you inherited from your pain, because you were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rise from it and become something bolder, freer, more powerful than you even thought possible. This isn't just healing, it's creation. You're not just bouncing back, you're being reborn. So I ask you again, not who were you when they hurt you, but who are you becoming now that you're free? That's where your power lives, the reframe that changes everything. What if this wasn't betrayal? What if it wasn't punishment, abandonment, or failure? What if this pain was redirection, the universe stepping in when you wouldn't move? Let's reframe everything, because the story you tell yourself shapes your entire identity, and for too long, you've been stuck in a narrative that says they left me, I wasn't enough, I failed. But what if you were protected, not punished? What if that door slammed shut, because behind it was a version of life that would have crushed your soul? It's hard to believe when you're bleeding, but sometimes pain shows up when we're about to settle, when we've outgrown the room, but are still too afraid to leave it. Betrayal hurts because it catches us off guard. Redirection hurts because we resist it. But in the long run, one destroys you, and the other builds you. Redirection doesn't ask for your permission. It removes what's misaligned. It rips away the illusions you were clinging to, not because you deserve pain, but because you deserved more. This isn't about spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. This is about powerful reframing, the kind that frees you from your victim story and shifts your identity into that of a creator. You can stay stuck in, they betrayed me, or rise into, I was being called to something greater. That shift, that single shift in perspective, can change the entire trajectory of your life. It makes you ask better questions, not why did they hurt me, but what did this pain unlock in me that comfort never could? That's the key, because pain is a messenger, and sometimes it shows up not to break you, but to wake you from the cycle, to wake you from the illusion that you needed their love to feel whole, to wake you from the story that this version of life was all there ever could be. This is your reframe. This is your awakening. The wound that tried to bury you is now the root of your rise. The betrayal you thought would destroy you, it was actually the turning point. You didn't lose yourself. You found who you were always meant to become, underneath the weight of everything that wasn't real. This pain isn't betrayal, it's divine redirection. And once you see it that way, once you feel that truth in your bones, you'll stop mourning the door that closed, and start building the one that opens into your power. The dangerous comfort of staying stuck. You say you want healing, but let me ask you this. Are you addicted to your pain? Sounds harsh, but stay with me. Because sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't what they did to you, it's how long you've allowed yourself to stay stuck in the after. You see, pain creates identity. And when that identity becomes familiar, even the suffering starts to feel like home. It's not that you love the pain, it's that you fear who you might be without it. Without the heartbreak, who are you? Without the betrayal, what story do you tell? Without the struggle, What becomes of your worth? So many people stay stuck, not because they can't heal, but because they've built a life around their wounds. They wear the pain like armor. They use it to protect themselves from love, risk, growth, because the pain is predictable. But healing requires change, and change is terrifying. It means letting go of the story where you were the victim. It means forgiving people who aren't even sorry. It means waking up one day and deciding, I'm not gonna bleed for this anymore. That's terrifying because it forces you to confront the unknown, the future you don't fully trust yet, the version of you that doesn't need pity or resentment or anyone's validation. But here's the truth, no one talks about. There's a cost to staying stuck. You think holding on to pain protects you, but it's costing you everything. Your peace, your potential, your power. And the longer you stay here, in this familiar suffering, the more you start to lose access to the future that was waiting on the other side of your decision to rise. This is your FOMO moment. Because if you don't move, life will. Opportunities will pass, love will knock, and you'll be too wounded to open the door. Purpose will whisper, and you'll be too bitter to hear it. You're not weak for being in pain, but you are responsible for what you do with it now. So ask yourself, do I want to keep being the person who was betrayed, or do I want to become the person who used their pain to awaken? One path keeps you safe, the other sets you free, but you have to choose, because staying stuck is a decision, not a destiny, and the clock is ticking. Don't let comfort become your coffin. Build from the wreckage. They shattered you. Life dropped a bomb on everything you thought was solid. The plans, the dreams, the version of yourself you were clinging to, all of it collapsed. And now you're standing in the rubble, asking, what do I even build now? But here's the truth, no one tells you. The wreckage isn't the end, it's raw material. Those broken pieces you're staring at, they're not trash, they're truth. They hold the version of you that was buried beneath pretending. The version that couldn't breathe under all the pressure to be perfect. The version that was waiting for life to strip everything away, so you could finally rebuild without the lies. This pain didn't destroy you, it revealed you. Yes, you're hurting, but pain is the birthplace of power. If you use it, think about how bones heal stronger at the break. Think about how a phoenix is born from fire, not despite the flames, but through them. You've got scars? Good, because scars mean you faced it and survived. And now it's time to build. Start small, start scared, but start. Pick one habit that reminds you of your strength. Speak one truth you were once afraid to say. Take one step toward a future that terrifies you and excites you at the same time. Because that wreckage you're standing in, it holds clarity. It shows you who was never real, what was never meant for you, and most importantly, who you were never meant to stay. You thought that betrayal ended your story, but what if it was the moment your story actually started? You thought that heartbreak ruined your life, but what if it gave you the courage to create one that's finally yours? This is where the world finds out what you're made of, not in your comfort, but in your comeback. You don't need to know exactly what the next 5 years look like. You just need to pick up one brick, lay it down with intention, and then another, and then another. Soon the ruins become a foundation, and the foundation becomes a fortress, and the fortress becomes a home, not made of who you were, but of who you chose to become. You're not starting over, you're starting wiser, you're starting stronger, you're starting with the fire still burning in your chest, not to destroy you, but to forge you. So let the world see your ashes, let them see the smoke, and then let them watch you rise, because this right here is where you become unbreakable. Don't just heal. Rise. Healing is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a new one. You didn't go through all this pain just to feel better. You went through hell to become someone unrecognizable to the version of you who settled, begged, waited, broke. Because healing isn't passive. It's not just about putting the pieces back where they were. It's about rebuilding with intention, choosing who you become now, that you know the cost of staying broken. The version of you that's emerging, they're different. They don't chase closure from people who gave silence. They don't beg for validation from places that once wounded them. They don't romanticize the past, because they remember the pain. You're not meant to heal and go back. You're meant to rise, and never return. And there's a massive difference between healing out of hurt, and rising out of wisdom. Rising means, I don't need to prove my worth. I own it. I don't seek revenge. I move in silence. I don't carry resentment. I carry purpose. Because the deeper you go into your healing, the louder your purpose starts to speak. That's when you stop asking, why did they hurt me? And start asking, what am I here to become because of it? That's when your story stops being about what happened to you, and starts becoming about what you do with it. Look at the difference. Carrying resentment feels heavy. Rising with purpose feels magnetic. Waiting for an apology keeps you stuck. Giving yourself permission to move forward sets you free. Feeling like a victim drains you. Walking like a warrior rebuilds you. This is your identity shift. You weren't abandoned. You were awakened. You weren't rejected. You were redirected. You weren't lost. You were being led into a version of yourself you would have never met if they had stayed. Led into power you would have never claimed if life had gone your way. Led into a healing that isn't just about relief, it's about rebirth. So don't stop at healing. Rise. Rise into the voice that shakes rooms. Rise into the love that no longer fears loneliness. Rise into the truth that no longer asks for permission to be seen. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone real. And that is the ultimate revenge. Not proving them wrong, not getting them back, but becoming so whole, they no longer even fit into the equation. You're not here to just survive your pain. You're here to turn it into the very thing that builds your legacy. So don't just heal, rise, and never shrink again. This was never the end. You thought this was the end of your story. The moment they walked away, the moment life broke you, the moment you hit the floor, and everything you believed in crumbled beneath you. But here's what they never told you. Some endings are actually entrances, not into hell, but into the version of you that couldn't be born in safety. Into the fire-forged, self-respecting, purpose-driven warrior that was always hidden underneath the pain. This was never betrayal. It was redirection. Redirection from who you were told to be, to who you were always meant to become. Because they didn't destroy you, they awakened you. And no, this isn't a romantic way to frame heartbreak. It's truth that only the brave discover when they stop asking why it hurt, and start asking what it built. You know what it built: clarity, conviction, courage. You now walk into rooms differently. You love with boundaries. You speak with fire. You don't just survive, you lead. That old version of you, the one who begged, settled, and broke quietly, they're gone. And in their place stands a human who knows their worth. Not because the world finally saw it, but because you decided to. This pain didn't ruin you. It rerouted you to the road you were too afraid to take, when you were still trying to fit in their story. This was never about them. It was always about you, your healing, your identity, your power. And now, you get to choose. Will you keep letting the absence of others define the presence of your future? Or will you finally reclaim the pen, and rewrite the damn story? Not to erase the pain, but to own it. Because when you own your story, nothing, and no one can use it against you again. So this is the moment you stop asking for closure, and become the closure. This is the moment you stop grieving the life that could have been, and start building the one that can still be. This was never the end. It was the earthquake before your breakthrough. It was the silence before your roar. It was the rejection that birthed your rebirth. And from here forward, you don't just move on, you rise with purpose. So stay with us, because this isn't the last heartbreak you'll face, but it can be the last time it breaks you. We're building something bigger than pain here. We're building power. And your story, it's just getting started. This video isn't just for watching, it's for becoming. Subscribe now, for weekly motivational videos that help you heal emotionally, find your identity, and break through pain. Comment below, my pain is my redirection, because your healing starts now. Let's grow together, every week, every word, every wound.